He broke her favorite doll when she was 6 and laughed while she cried. Our parents called it teasing. I called it Tuesday. Now she's getting married, and left his name off the guest list. What followed shattered our family, and for the first time, I chose a side. Not his. Not theirs. Hers. You'll tell her, right? That he has to be there. He's her brother, for God's sake. The words hit me like cold water as I stood at the kitchen counter, folding linen napkins for the rehearsal dinner. My mother's voice was too casual for the weight of what she'd just said. I looked up slowly, meeting her eyes across the room. No, I said before I could stop myself. She blinked, thrown. What do you mean, no? He's family. That word. That cursed, twisted, weaponized word. I wanted to scream. Instead, I said, Anna doesn't want him there, and I'm not going to force her to invite the person who spent her entire childhood making her feel like garbage. My mom's lips thinned. Oh, come on, you're exaggerating. They were just kids. He was teasing. Siblings tease. I turned back to the napkins. My hands were trembling. The first time I remember it clearly, Anna was 6. Jamie was 8. He took her favorite doll, the ballerina one with the ribbon shoes, and broke her arm off. Just snapped it and tossed it in the trash. Anna cried for hours. I tried to help her tape it back together with Band-Aids, and Jamie just laughed and called her a baby. Mom rolled her eyes. He's just being a boy. Don't encourage her crying, sweetheart. Dad chuckled from his recliner, not even looking up from the TV. That's brotherly love. Anna stopped bringing her toys out after that. As we got older, it didn't stop. It got meaner. He stole her school projects, humiliated her in front of friends, read her diary out loud at the dinner table once. That time, she ran to her room and locked the door. I still hear the thud of her sobbing into her pillow. Mom said she needed to learn to laugh at herself. I didn't say anything. I sat there pretending to chew, while my stomach clenched into a rock. When we were teenagers, Jamie started getting darker, meaner. He called Anna fat, called her stupid. Once, when she brought a boy home, Jamie cornered him in the driveway and told him Anna had STDs. That boy never came back. I confronted him that time, told him to stop. He just sneered. Why do you care so much? She's a loser. I told Mom. She said I was being dramatic, that I was trying to make something out of nothing, that Jamie was just going through a phase. Anna stopped bringing anyone home after that. Now Anna's 28. She's getting married next weekend. A small, elegant ceremony by the lake. No drama, no Jamie. And somehow that's what our family thinks is unforgivable. The napkins were folded. Perfectly. I smoothed one with my hand, even though it didn't need smoothing. You don't understand what this is doing to us, my mom said behind me, voice lower now. To the family. People are going to ask where he is. Then you can tell them, I said. Tell them you stood by while your son tormented your daughter for decades and now you're mad she's protecting herself. My voice cracked. I hated that. She's excluding him. That's cruel, she said. She's protecting her peace, I snapped. That's survival. Later that night, I sat at the dining table with the stack of wedding invitations Anna had designed months ago. There was a list of who had RSVP'd, and one slot that remained intentionally, painfully blank. Jamie's. Next to that was a dinner place card with his name on it, crossed out in pencil. I picked it up and stared at it, then pushed it into the trash. The next morning, my father called. You've always been the reasonable one, he said, with the warm, warning tone he used when trying to guilt me into fixing things. Your sister's being emotional. Your brother. It's not like he killed anyone. No, I said quietly, but he killed parts of her, bit by bit, and you helped him do it. Silence. Then a sigh, deep and tired. You're really choosing sides? I almost laughed. No, I'm finally admitting I already did. I just never said it out loud. And then it happened. The moment that's burned into me. I said, if you support him showing up, don't come. Not to the rehearsal, not to the wedding, not at all. I hung up before they could answer. The house was quiet after that. I sat down to finish assembling the welcome gifts, one for each guest, except one was missing. And for the first time, I felt it. Not just the pain of what we were losing, but the beginning of something else. Freedom. We were still ironing seat covers when Dad showed up at my house unannounced. No call, no warning, just the sound of his truck in the driveway and the tired creak of the screen door. I didn't even look up. She's tearing this family apart, he said by way of hello. I stayed silent, tugging a wrinkle out of ivory linen. He took a step into the kitchen like that meant something, like this was still his territory. All over a stupid guest list. I turned then. No, all over a lifetime of you looking the other way. His mouth twitched. Offense or guilt, I couldn't tell. There was a Thanksgiving when Anna was 11. She had just made the school choir, her first real joy in months. Jamie accidentally spilled gravy all over her dress right before we left. I saw him do it. He aimed. He smiled. She burst into tears, of course. Mom called it an overreaction. It's just a dress. But it wasn't. It was the first time Anna had felt proud of herself in years, and we all let it slide. I told myself back then that if I made peace, if I kept the temperature down, maybe I could protect her. But peace built on silence is a lie, and my silence made me complicit. Jamie got sharper with age, more charming in public, more venomous in private. When Anna was 16, she caught him going through her phone. He read private messages out loud at dinner. Again. Only this time they were with a counselor she'd finally trusted to talk about her depression. He called her emo. Mom giggled. You kids and your drama. Anna left the table and didn't eat. I watched her push food around on her plate, unseen for the next 2 years. Now she's marrying someone who listens when she speaks, who doesn't laugh at her sensitivity, who actually knows what her favorite color is. And somehow, he isn't the family. Jamie is. The day the invites were mailed, Mom called me in tears. I just don't understand how she could do this to him. I asked her if she remembered what he did at Anna's high school graduation party. She went quiet. He said she was too ugly to wear white. She didn't speak for a week. More silence. Then the dagger. You always exaggerate. I looked down at the seating chart spread out across my table. Jamie's name was missing, but his absence screamed louder than anything else. That night, Anna texted me a photo of the lake view from the venue. I almost feel safe here. That message broke something in me, because safe shouldn't be something you almost feel. Not on your wedding day, not from your own family. When I told our parents not to come if they couldn't support her choice, my chest ached with something I hadn't felt in years. Conviction. I've spent my life trying to be the peacekeeper. Now I'm the line in the sand. And if they cross it, then they were never really standing with us to begin with. They came anyway, not to the wedding, that boundary at least held, but to the rehearsal dinner I found out from the venue staff. My parents showed up uninvited, smiling like guests of honor, asking where their table was. They said they were family, the coordinator whispered wide-eyed. They're not, I said, louder than I meant to. Anna was in the back, getting her hair pinned up for the photos. She looked beautiful, nervous, happy in that fragile way people are when they don't quite trust good things to last. She asked if everything was going okay, and I said yes. I smiled for her. I didn't tell her they were here. Not yet. I found them near the bar. Mom was in her best pearls, pretending this was a misunderstanding. Dad had that expression he always wore at PTA meetings, stoic, superior, 2 sips from condescending. Thought we'd come show our support, he said, like it was generous. You were told not to. Mom waved her hand. Oh, Leah, emotions were high. We're past that now. I stepped between them and the main room. No, you don't get to decide when we're past something. Mom's smile dropped. This is a celebration. We're still her parents. Then maybe you should have acted like it, I snapped. You don't get credit for biology when you've ignored everything else. She flinched. Flashback, Anna's 22nd birthday. She invited Jamie for the last time. He showed up drunk, told her fiancé he'd be bored within a year, and smashed a wine glass when we asked him to leave. Dad said he was just spirited. Mom blamed Anna for baiting him. She cried the rest of the night. Jamie left without saying goodbye. That was the last time she allowed him in her home. And they still asked her to be the bigger person every Christmas after. Back at the dinner, my voice shook with a quiet I hoped would land harder than yelling. She didn't want him here. You knew that. And by coming, you told her that your comfort matters more than her safety. Mom's jaw trembled. Dad looked away. You keep calling it family, but what you really mean is compliance. They didn't argue after that. They left without finishing their wine. When I returned to Anna, she asked what had happened. I hesitated. Then I said, They tried to come. I asked them to leave. She stared at me. You did that for me? For both of us. She nodded, eyes glassy. Thank you. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was betraying anyone by telling the truth. I felt like I was finally telling it to the right people. The wedding was perfect, not flawless. Anna's veil got caught on a chair leg. The flower girl sneezed through half the ceremony, and the officiant mispronounced the groom's middle name. But perfect in the way that matters. No tension. No cold glances from across the room. No eggshells. No Jamie. No parents. Just love. And a kind of quiet joy I hadn't seen on her face since we were kids. The kind of joy that only comes when you stop waiting for someone to ruin it. The kind you don't trust at first, like sunlight after a long winter. During dinner, there was one empty seat. Row 3, table 5. I saw it as I walked back from the bathroom. It was small, but it stood out. White place card, untouched glass of wine, folded napkin waiting on a lap that would never be there. Someone must have made a mistake, I thought. But when I asked Anna later, she said, "No mistake. I left that chair." I looked at her, confused. She said, "I wanted to prove to myself I could look at it and feel nothing." And she did. She smiled. I almost cried. I caught myself staring at that chair all night. I thought about every table Jamie had flipped over metaphorically, and once literally, at holidays, birthdays, graduations. Every time Anna tried to shine, and he dragged the spotlight off her like it belonged to him by default. And every time we let him. I remember once when Anna was maybe 9, she painted this tiny ceramic bird at school. She worked on it for days. It wasn't perfect. The wings were uneven, and the colors bled. But she was proud of it. She set it on the windowsill in the living room. The next morning it was shattered on the floor. Jamie said it fell. No one believed him, but no one said a thing. Mom swept it up. Anna said she didn't care, but she never made another one. And that, I realized, was how you slowly kill a child's spirit. Not in one blow. In hundreds of little silences. I carried that image through the whole reception, through the toasts, through the first dance. Because what Anna did today, it was her way of gluing that bird back together, of saying, "You don't get to break me anymore." When the cake was cut and the music slowed, I found her sitting alone for a moment on the dock behind the venue. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded. "I keep expecting someone to yell at me." "Why?" "For being happy." I sat beside her. "You earned this." She didn't look at me, just stared out at the water. "You know," she said, "I thought I'd miss them, just a little." "And?" "I don't, not even a little." The moon rose slow. The music carried from the building like a soft heartbeat, and for the first time I believed her. So did I. They sent flowers. 3 days after the wedding, a white bouquet arrived at Anna's door. No note, no sender name. Just a card that said, "Hope it was beautiful." She stared at it for a long time before setting it on the kitchen counter. "It's them," she said quietly. "Maybe it's someone else?" I offered, half-hearted. Anna gave me a look. "They always send white roses, ever since Grandma's funeral." Right, of course. She didn't throw them away. That surprised me. She didn't put them in a vase either, just left them there, like a question she refused to answer. We made tea in silence. I wanted to ask how she felt, but I knew the answer. Torn, angry, guilty, even now, because that's what they trained us to feel. Guilt as inheritance. I got a text that night. "Dad, we just wanted to be part of her day, that's all. It's not right to cut us out for mistakes we made when everyone was young." That word, mistakes. Like Jamie tripping over a word at the spelling bee. Like breaking a lamp. Not like years of gaslighting, humiliation, and psychological erosion. I didn't reply. Instead, I scrolled back through old photos, birthdays, vacations, Thanksgiving dinners. In almost all of them, Anna looked small, not in size, in posture. Curled in on herself, eyes down. Like she was waiting for the camera to catch something else so she could disappear. In one, from her 14th birthday, she was holding a cake Jamie had smashed his fist into. You can still see the dent. She's smiling, but only if you don't look too hard. They called me the next day. Mom this time. She didn't ask how Anna was. She didn't ask about the wedding. She asked if I was proud of what I'd done. "Proud of what?" I said, already knowing. "Of turning your sister against her family." I actually laughed. It startled both of us. "She is family," I said. "She's just the one you spent 20 years pretending didn't need protecting." "You don't understand the pressure we were under with Jamie," she snapped. "He always needed more attention, more patience. He was difficult." "He was violent, Mom." Silence. Then, "You always were dramatic." That's when I knew there was no coming back. Because when someone looks at the ruins and sees only the inconvenience, not the blood on their hands, you stop calling it a misunderstanding. You call it what it is, neglect. And we're done pretending it's love. A week passed. The flowers wilted. No follow-up. No apology. Just the silence that always came after their attempts didn't go as planned. What they called giving space. But what really meant waiting for you to feel bad enough to crawl back. But something had shifted this time. Anna didn't cry. She didn't second-guess herself. She just threw the bouquet out on Sunday morning like it was any other trash. "I don't need symbols," she said. "I need peace. And God, I believed her. Then Jamie texted me. I hadn't blocked him. I don't know why. Maybe part of me still wanted to believe he could wake up one day and get it. That he'd say the words Anna needed to hear. I'm sorry. I was cruel. You didn't deserve it. But instead, I got this. Jamie. So you're proud of yourself? Turning her into a bitter bitch just like you? I stared at the message for a long time. He'd always hated women with boundaries. And there it was. Proof that nothing had changed. That he still thought pain was something he was entitled to deliver. That his anger was sacred. And our resistance was blasphemy. I didn't reply. Instead, I sent a screenshot to Anna. Her response? Anna, he's exactly who I remember. Thank you for helping me forget. It wasn't just relief. It was power. The kind that comes from finally seeing someone clearly and choosing not to flinch. The kind that makes you stand taller without even realizing it. I wish I could say I felt strong too. But all I felt was this dull ache under my ribs, because I remember all the times I didn't protect her. The nights she cried in her room and I turned up my music. The mornings I told her to just ignore him. The way I used to think, at least it's not me. I used to believe that neutrality was mercy. Now I know it was betrayal in slow motion, and that kind of regret doesn't fade. It lingers. It teaches. Mom left a voicemail the next day. Her voice was tight, rehearsed. We've been thinking. Maybe it's time for a real conversation, just the four of us. Like family, no blaming, just moving on. Moving on. That phrase made my skin crawl. Moving on is easy, when it wasn't your bones that got broken under the rug. When your safety was never conditional. When your voice was never labeled too much. I didn't delete the voicemail, but I didn't respond. Instead, I sat on my porch that night and thought about the dinner table from our childhood. The one where Jamie always got the biggest portion, the loudest voice, the final say. And I remembered the empty chair at Anna's wedding. A symbol of absence. A symbol of choice. And for once it felt like the absence spoke louder than anything they'd ever said. Because silence isn't always complicity. Sometimes it's survival. I saw them at the grocery store. It had been nearly 2 months since the wedding. I was in the produce aisle, comparing spinach bags when I heard Mom's voice behind me, soft and artificial. Oh, Leah. I turned. She smiled like nothing had happened, like she hadn't accused me of destroying the family, like she hadn't shown up uninvited and left in a storm of indignation. Dad was beside her, pretending to examine tomatoes. I felt my heart rate spike. Not fear. Resentment, maybe. Exhaustion. We've been meaning to talk, she said, taking a small step closer. Her tone was careful, public-friendly. Can we grab coffee? Just the three of us. No pressure. I looked her dead in the eye. You mean without Anna? The way her face tightened, just for a second, was answer enough. We thought it might be easier. Easier for who? She glanced at Dad, who hadn't looked up. You've always been the rational one, Leah. We thought maybe you could help us rebuild this. This. The vague, empty noun they always used when accountability was too uncomfortable. You know what's exhausting? I said, voice low, shaking. Every time you want reconciliation, it starts with me bending first. Every time there's damage, I'm the designated glue. And every time Jamie hurts someone, you come running. Not to stop him, but to soften the fallout. We're not defending him. You've never done anything else. Mom's jaw clenched. Dad shifted but still didn't meet my eyes. You know what Anna said the night of her wedding? I asked. She said she kept waiting for someone to yell at her, for being happy. That shut them up. That's what she associates with you, with him, with all of it. Mom blinked quickly. We made mistakes. But what do you want us to do? Just disappear from your lives? I didn't answer right away. I thought about what I wanted, a time machine, a version of childhood where I'd stood up for Anna earlier, where someone had intervened, where love wasn't measured by tolerance for abuse. But we don't get time machines, we get choices. I want you to stop pretending that what happened to her was normal. That's when Dad finally spoke. It wasn't abuse, he muttered. It was just difficult years. He was a teenager. He was a terrorist in a bedroom down the hall, I snapped. And now people were starting to glance over from the mushrooms. Mom looked like she wanted to cry. Or scream. Maybe both. I left my cart behind and walked out. I sat in my car for 10 minutes after that, hands on the wheel, too shaken to drive. Not because they hurt me, but because they still didn't get it. And probably never would. And I was done giving them the benefit of the doubt. They weren't confused. They were comfortable. And we made them uncomfortable. Good. They started calling again after that. Blocked numbers, private numbers. One voicemail after another, each message more desperate than the last. First came the guilt. We're still your parents, Leah. We miss you. Then the bargaining. We'll go to therapy. We'll listen this time. Then the anger. You're poisoning your sister. You've always been bitter. I didn't respond. I didn't even listen to most of them. I just saved one. The one where Mom said, "You think you're helping her, but you're only making it worse. She needs family, not a crusade." I played that one back sometimes. Not to hurt myself, to remind myself what we left. Anna and I had started a new ritual, Friday dinners at my place. Nothing fancy. Pasta, wine, music. No one yelling, no one belittling. Sometimes we talked about heavy things. Sometimes we just watched bad TV and said nothing. That silence, it healed more than therapy ever could. One night she asked me, "Do you ever feel bad?" I didn't need to ask what she meant. "Yes," I said, "but not about choosing you." A week later, Jamie posted on Facebook a long, passive-aggressive screed about families being torn apart by drama queens and people who rewrite history to play the victim. He didn't name names. He didn't have to. Our cousins flooded the comments with likes and heart reacts. A few of them even shared it. Anna saw it first. She sent me a screenshot with no caption, but I knew what it meant. We'd always been the silent ones, the peacekeepers, the ones who endured. But now, Anna made her own post. It wasn't angry. It wasn't even defensive. Just a picture of her wedding day, smiling, sunlit, surrounded by chosen family. The caption read, "This is what healing looks like. It doesn't need to scream. It just needs to stop apologizing." I could have cried. Of course, that set off the family group chat, which we had both left months ago. Apparently, some relatives were concerned about our attitude, about airing private pain. But pain doesn't stay private when it's made you sick for years. And silence never protected Anna. It just protected Jamie. I printed that photo, the one she posted, framed it, set it beside the window in my kitchen, right where that broken ceramic bird used to sit. I got the letter on a Wednesday. Actual paper, envelope, blue ink. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting before I even opened it. Mom's cursive, neat and nostalgic, the kind that belongs in school yearbooks and sympathy cards. I almost threw it away, but I didn't. I read it at the kitchen table, the same table where Anna and I had laughed over pasta just days before. It started like an apology. We didn't know. We were doing our best. We never meant to hurt anyone. But halfway through, it turned. We're a family, Leah. Families don't abandon each other over misunderstandings. You and Anna are being influenced by anger, and you're letting it poison what's left of us. What happens when you need us someday? What happens when it's too late to fix it? And there it was. Not regret, not accountability. Fear. Fear that we wouldn't come back. Fear that the power they'd always held over us, the invisible leash of obligation, was finally severed. I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer I didn't use. Anna didn't even want to see it. "I already know what it says," she told me. "They haven't changed. They're just losing." That word stuck with me. Losing. Because that's what it's always been, hasn't it? A game. A tally. Love as leverage. Affection as reward for silence. They weren't sorry for what they did. They were sorry we walked away without begging them to follow. A few nights later, Anna and I took a walk through our old neighborhood. The houses hadn't changed much, but everything else had. When we passed our childhood home, we both stopped. The porch light was on, the curtains drawn, the yard still too neat, too forced, just like them. I said nothing. Anna whispered, "I used to dream of running away. I'd pack imaginary bags in my head." "I used to dream of coming back and finally yelling," I said. "Screaming even." She laughed. "Funny how we ended up just leaving." As we turned the corner, she slipped her arm through mine. "You think they'll ever understand?" I thought about that. "I don't think they want to." She nodded slowly. "Then I'm done hoping." And just like that, the weight of decades lifted a little more, step by step. We didn't celebrate cutting them off. There was no champagne, no victory dance, just stillness. The kind that creeps in after a storm you didn't know you were surviving until the sky finally clears. No one talks about how quiet healing is. No one talks about how lonely it feels at first. Anna started therapy again. Real therapy this time. Not the kind Mom used to mock with air quotes. She told me her therapist said something simple, almost too simple. It wasn't your job to earn love by surviving pain. She cried when she repeated it to me. Then we laughed because it felt so obvious and still so impossible. I stopped answering relatives altogether. The cousin who messaged me with, "No offense, but maybe you guys should just let it go," got blocked. The aunt who called Anna dramatic got a one-line reply. She survived. That's not drama. That's resilience. Jamie kept posting. Eventually, no one but his college friends even reacted. He was still loud, but the audience had thinned, and for someone like him, silence is the ultimate punishment. Last week, Anna brought me a gift. A small, clumsy ceramic bird. Handmade. It was painted unevenly, soft blues and purples, a little lopsided. She held it out like a peace offering, though there was nothing left between us that needed fixing. "I took a class," she said. "I wanted to try again." I couldn't speak. I just took it in both hands, gently, reverently, like it was made of starlight. We placed it on my windowsill, right where the old one broke. And for the first time in my entire life, I realized we were the ones rebuilding the nest, not the ones who burned it, not the ones who stayed quiet while it cracked. We were the ones who finally said no, who finally said enough, who finally said, "You don't get to call this love if it only ever hurt us." So no, we didn't celebrate. But we did exhale, and we didn't look back.